10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What a fight! I think Guerrero won it!
Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lascano.
With his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, wearing black with white, also weighing in at 167.6 pounds. In his professional career, 54 victories, including 36 big wins by knockout, only one defeat with 2 draws, and he's undefeated for 6 years, and considered by many to be, pound for pound, the best in the world. He's the former 2-time light middleweight world champion, former middleweight world champion, former light heavyweight world champion, the reigning, defending super middleweight champion of the world, damas y caballeros de Guadalajara, Jalisco, México, representando al gran campeón, Saúl Canelo.
And thanks to those joining me live and those that'll be joining me on the archive. D-Style Boxing here. Make sure you hit the like button if you're listening now. If you're listening on the archive, if you're watching on X, you could always come to the YouTube channel, D-Style Boxing. Subscribe. Hit the bell button, the bell notification if you already subscribed. That way you're notified every time D-Style Boxing comes on the live here. Make sure you share the content on all your social media platforms. It's much appreciated. I appreciate everybody that tunes in. We had a great roundtable on Thursday, roundtable 198. It's on Ringside Reporter if anybody wants to go check it out. It was great. And people were talking about the show afterwards or tweeting about the show. They're doing spaces on Twitter about the show. Having post-fight thoughts about it and opinions, and there's people in the comments under the show. It was a very eventful, contentious show, and it's, in my opinion, I think it's pretty clear, has sparked a greater conversation and sparked a greater thing. Now, first, not that I want to give a cheap plug or nothing, but it is what it is. That is the concept of the round table. That the round table should be about different ideas and different people coming on the show. And you're not supposed to like every single person on the round table. There's going to be people you don't like, but another viewer is going to like. And that should be the idea behind it, right? Yes, someone might be like annoying you with their opinion because you disagree with them, but there's always going to be somebody else in the round table that you agree with. And that's the whole point. That's always been the point. Because of echo chamber culture and because of tribal culture, like believe it or not, it happens in boxing. People getting together that agree with each other all the time. Because of that, it's difficult to do that. It's difficult to get people. People don't really have an interest nowadays to have discourse with people they disagree with. Me, I love talking to people I disagree with. I like picking their brain. I want them to I generally want to listen to them, and I do want to know their perspective. If you listen in that way, you learn more, and I want my audience to understand that, right? I've had roundtable shows where I'm being asked to kick somebody out the panel. I've had roundtable shows where I'm being asked to mute somebody or get somebody out of there, or get this guy out of there. He's saying this. I can't believe he's saying that. Why are you letting him say this? And there could be 4 other people on the panel saying what you love and agree with, but it's one person. Like it, we need to get our heads out of it, right? Oh, why'd you let Mighty Max go out Canelo that way on the round table? You should have done this. You should have done that, because that's his opinion, and he has a right to express it. And that is the message. Anyone could come on the round table. Like I've invited people to the round table and they said yes, and I've had like a disagreement with them on Twitter, and then they ghost the round table. Like they don't come on because they feel like, well, I'm not going to go over there. He doesn't agree with me about this, so I'm not going to go. He said, like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to mute you. Like, you're going to get to express your opinion, right? The only thing that will get you muted on the round table, no one's ever been muted on the round table in the history of the round table. But the only thing that will get you muted is if you're rude, like if you're just trying to disrupt the show, right? But that's like never happened, so it's not, I'm not concerned about that. But that is the whole point, you know what I mean? And I want discourse and I want disagreement. Now, granted, just because I want disagreement doesn't mean that you get a pass to disagree with me and I don't get to respond. Well, I thought you could say I could disagree. Yeah, you can. But I can respond right back. It just is what it is. All right. With that said, if you guys haven't seen it, that there was the topic of Rayo Valenzuela, maybe challenging Tank Davis for his WBA belt. You know what I mean? Although it's not really for the belts, it's about money, if we're honest. But nonetheless, that topic came up, and it was like, okay, it's not. The question wasn't, is it the best fight that could be made? Is it what we really want? Is it what we're asking for? Is it a good fight? So we went around the panel. Calix doesn't like it, and then Gail afterwards went, and Gail, felt passionately that, if people don't like what Tank is doing, if you don't like it, then don't complain about it. Just don't buy his fights. Don't talk about it. And, and the market will, dictate, what Tank does with that response. Right. And if essentially, if Tank can still make money and can still do his thing, even if we don't like it, then we just got to deal with it, right? And I could understand it to a certain degree. I can. However, the fundamental difference and the discourse that's been ongoing from that, because after that we talked about the Brian Orman Jr. situation with Boots, and there's people that feel, hey, Brian Orman has a right to do what he's doing, which I don't even disagree with, but to an extent of nobody should question what Brian Orman is doing, though. Like he has a right to do it, but I have a right to have an opinion about what he's doing. All right, is the way I feel, right? And then the bigger issue, right? Because the whole conversation has become a philosophical question, right? And that is, can we question fighters or make demands as boxing fans? Either the answer is yes or no, and if it's yes, it becomes a more, there's a follow up to that, I should say, and the follow up is, how much can we question? How much? Like there's a spectrum to that. The answer is no, it's no, you can't, right? But the answer is yes. Well, okay, how much can we question, right? Because I have my limits, and some people go past those limits. Some people don't go to the limits I go to, and I completely understand that. I'm going to bring up a screenshot of something I said and a response I got. The response was from Gabriel Montoya. He's a longtime scribe. He is somebody I respect in the industry, so this is not a beef. It's, I believe, somewhat of a disagreement, but I don't know how much we disagree because we haven't actually sat down and had a conversation about this to a very detailed degree. People will be surprised how much they agree, even though there's some fundamental disagreements here and there. And maybe those disagreements are highlighted enough, but there's still some agreements here and there, whatever. But I'm going to share something, and they're just something that he disagrees with. I'm going to share it. All right. And we're going to go from there. You know what I mean? So let me share this right now. If I could bring it up, if I can find it. You know what I mean? Why isn't it sharing? My StreamYard is tripping. Like bad. My StreamYard's acting weird. Okay, there it is. I got it. All right. Let me know if you guys can see that. Yes, you can. All right. So this is what I'm going to go over. All right. This is my tweet. Cheap plug. I get it. You know what I mean? But you could follow me on Twitter, by the way, D-Style Boxing. The idea that fighters are entitled to get generational wealth in order to take a risk in a sport they made a decision to participate in describes the flawed logic in American boxing today. Get your bag culture is not the same as prize fighting culture. All right. And I know there's going to be people that say, oh, prize fighting is about getting your bag. Like, what do you mean? I mean, I get it. But there's a difference between fighting for money, which is what boxers do, if we're honest. Okay. That's a primary reason. That is, to many of them, their profession. That's what they do. And I personally respect that. Okay. I can respect that. You know, it's a dangerous sport, and it's what they chose to do for a living. And even though they chose to do it, I could still respect it, and I do. Right? I have all the respect in the world for professional fighters. All right. Now, granted, a vast majority of boxers, because they all put their lives on the line, all of them, every single last one of them, when they go into that ring, right, put their health on the line, put their lives on the line, whether they're making 2,000, whether they're making 1,000,000, whether they're making tens of millions, whether they're making 5,000, every single last one of them, when they go in that ring, are putting their health and their life on the line, and the inevitable of somebody taking damage, whether it's both or just one, is going to happen, right? That is if you want to call boxing barbaric, and that's the reason a lot of people don't watch it, right? Then I get it. It is a guilty pleasure for a lot of us, right? It is a barbaric sport. Like, it's just that's the reality. That's what we chose to watch. We didn't choose to watch tennis. We didn't choose to watch other sports that aren't as violent. We chose boxing, right? We chose to turn on the TV or our smartphone or our laptop or tablet, whatever, or go live in person and watch a boxing match, right? That's the sport we chose. A sport that has multiple deaths a year, a sport that has a lot of sacrifice, a lot of blood, a lot of tears, right? The lifeline of this sport, right? The life of this sport is fueled with the blood, sweat, and tears of fighters. I understand. 100%. Right? Now, what I'm saying here is this, and I want to make sure people understand. I think this is a misunderstanding that Gabe had with my position, but I'm going to touch on that. But let me first show you Gabe's response, okay? So I'll just have to scroll down here a little bit. I'm sure it's there somewhere. There it is. Gabriel Montoya. You can follow him, Gabriel_Montoya. And he says, the idea that boxing fans want fighters to take whatever is offered to so they can get some entertainment is an example of entitled fan culture that has taken over sports. Or maybe it was always there. It is a business. For the fighters, the window to make money is very tiny. Now, this wasn't in my post, so I'm not saying Guillermo Montoya needs to be aware of all these things, but this is why I prefer this over going back and forth in text, right? Because I can expand on my thoughts, okay? So we're gonna have to peel this like an onion, right? It's all in layers, right? So number one, I have never blamed fighters for doing something that I wouldn't do, right? So if somebody offered me crazy amount of money to do something, and of course I'm going to take it. Of course I'm going to take more money than less money, right? I'm taking, like, if I'm going to fight the same fighter, the same risk is there. Of course I'm going to want more money than less money. If I can make life-changing money, if I can make generational wealth, right? Of course I'm going to take it, right? Of course I can, empathize and understand that I wouldn't want to make less doing my job. I wouldn't take less money to do what I do. So I wouldn't ask the same of fighters, right? That is not what my post is about, right? It's not about really about the fighter. It's not really that. It's not about me blaming the fighter for wanting to maximize the money that they make. I don't blame the fighter for not giving a shit if the event makes money or not, right? That's not their problem, right? I understand that, like, if I was in that position, I'm going to get a guarantee bag, right? And even if the event's going to lose money, I don't care what people say. I'm going to take the money, right? So I'm not the guy that's over here saying, "Oh, yeah, just take what you're given," right? Get the money they give you and go do what they told you to do, right? That's not me, right? I'm not the guy that when there's a purse bid and a fighter gets a lot of money that complains about it and like, "Oh, I can't believe they're giving this guy that much money. What's going on?" Right? I don't direct it to the fighters because I understand that the fighters are going to do everything in their power to make as much money as possible, right? Because I agree. They do have a very small window. They can't do this for 50 years like a Bob Arum. You know what I mean? They can't do this for 50 years like a Don King. Deloy is a promoter. He was a former fighter, but you could be a promoter a lot longer than you can a fighter, right? I understand that. The window of opportunity to make money is a lot shorter. There's no disagreement with that, right? So I just wanted to make that clear. And yes, it has always been there, quite frankly. I would argue that fans have always been the way they are. It's just that now that there's a microscope and the voice of the fan, you see, before it was just when you go to the arena, when you talk with friends. Now, if I tweet something, right? Like whatever it is I tweet, like this right here, this is just a tweet. And it got 1,104 views. My voice got over 1,000 views. And I'm one of millions of boxing fans around the world. I'm one of tens of thousands of fans on Twitter, right? Just think about the voice of the fan and how much more. I shouldn't say microscope. Like I should say it's more visible, actually. Well, I guess microscope is the right term, but nonetheless, okay. There's more visibility to the boxing fan directly, right? And we have a more powerful voice now. At least it's more visible than before. That is true, right? So that it is what it is. But here's what I mean by get your back culture. So with me understanding all that, I already explained that, right? It's not good for the sport. And I'm going to take it back to the fighters in general, right? It's not good for the sport of boxing, right? If fighters are trying to get the bag and then get out. I'm not blaming the fighters for that. Right? We know the damage boxing causes in the long run, right? Even boxers that were known for being defensive specialists. So it's not like it depends how you fight thing. Whether it's your joints, whether it's your body, your health, everything. Especially the brain. It's a lot of damage that the fighters take. I get all that, right? And I'm not saying, look, boxing has gotten better about, fighters not fighting over 100 times or like fighting 200 times. And as much as I revere the legends, and there's a lot of nostalgia I have with them, and I think what they did was amazing. That the reality is, I don't want to go back to the day where fighters were fighting 20 times a year. Like that's crazy, right? But what's reasonable though? Like we do need fighters to be active, like in order to have a healthy sport, we do need fighters to want to keep doing it, right? It's not if and not all of it is health, by the way, right? Not all of it, but if you like when it comes to the promoters, when it comes to an Eddie Hearn or someone who's not a promoter, but is kind of de facto promoter, but he's just coming in like, putting money out there, like Turk Al Sheikh, or you have somebody like that, then and you start to pay over market value for fights. Well, that's good for the fighters in the short term. At least the fighters that are getting the bag now, that's good for them. I'm not mad at them for it. They're doing what I would have done. They're taking the money. I get it. But what you're starting to do is, in my opinion, you're starting to fuck up the market. Is what you're starting to do. You start to fighters become less active. And what happens if fighters become less active? We see them less, right? But we're boxing fans. So at some point, we want to see these fighters. We want to see them fight. And what I'm not going to do, it's just me. No one's going to guilt me into wanting to watch my favorite fighters fight. No one's going to guilt me in wanting to watch a fighter test himself with the best opposition. No one is going to guilt me from a fan's perspective to want to see the best fight the best. In the end, I believe in a hierarchy system, and I believe these fighters should be fighting each other, right? Because I believe in the competition aspect of it, the sports aspect of it. Let's find out who the best is, right? Let's establish who the best fighter in the world is. No one's going to guilt me in wanting to demand that. Because that's what I pay to watch. That's what I'm paying for. I work. I have a job. I work for my money. I work hard for my money. And when I put money into something, when I'm a consumer, I have a right to have certain expectations. I have a right to say, hey, I want to watch Tank fight better opposition. I want to watch these fighters fight the best. I want to watch the very best fights possible. And I want to watch it as much as possible. Within reason, obviously, right? I want fighters to fight 3 times a year, right? No one's going to guilt me into like not wanting that, not saying I want that. I want activity. Is what I want. I want them to be prize fighters, meaning fight for prizes, but do it often. That's what I want. I don't want, I'm going to hold this bout hostage. I don't give a fuck about the fans. I'm going to get that fight, and I want generational wealth for it. It's what I want. So what I would say to Gabriel Montoya is this. I'm not saying that Roman should take whatever is offered to him. He has a right to negotiate. They increased it 3 times. He could decide what he wants, but the facts are the 1.7 million is 17 times more than he's ever made. 17 times more than he made to fight Santillan. Santillan is dangerous. Santillan can land something on you and hurt you. Right? Like, so me as a fan, I do have a right, in my opinion, to say, I think he should have taken that. I think 17 times more than you ever made is a good offer. No one is going to force him to the ring. No one's going to drag him to the ring, right? So no one's forcing him to do anything. But when people say, no, I do think that's a good amount, and people have a right to say, I think he's not taking it because he doesn't think he could be Boots. That's why he's not taking that fight. That's why he's not taking it. Now, Gabe, I remember when you would criticize Floyd Mayweather. And rightfully so. I agree with your opinions that you had of the guy, right? I remember podcasts you would do, and you would basically say, you don't really want to talk about him because you want to talk about active fighters. Well, he's not an active fighter. He only fights once a year, maybe twice a year. I remember you saying those things. I remember when you would criticize Floyd for not fighting Antonio Margarito. I remember you would criticize Floyd for taking another path of less resistance, and you rightfully criticized them, right? When Floyd was offered at the time $8 million to fight Margarito, many had the opinion, hey, I think Floyd should have taken that amount of money. That's a good amount of money to fight Margarito, and he didn't. Floyd went another way, another direction. So we all have a right to express our opinions, right? Now, what people are doing here, what I'm saying here is Brian Norman Jr. priced himself out. That's my opinion, right? Like, I don't think he believes he could be Boots. That's what I believe. And the reason I believe that is because he's going to take far less money. He's going to go back to the ring and put his life on the line for far less money to fight somebody else on an undercard, right? Instead of taking this fight. Now, one may say, hey, he has a right. Like, I never said he doesn't have a right to decline. He doesn't have a right to believe that he's worth more when it comes to a Boots fight. I never said any of that. All I'm saying is that he has a right to feel that way. I have a right to my opinion. And boxing fans have a right to state, you know what? I don't like that. I do think that's a good offer for you, and I think you should take it. It's what I believe. Right? Fundamentally, right? I just think that if you're making 17 times more than you were making in your last fight, even if you don't take it, you can't say it's a lowball offer. Like what? Because then the next question becomes, and I already stated, it's not really the problem of boxers to care about this really, but we need to ask ourselves, is monetarily, because we got to be realistic, does Brian Norman Jr. generate that type of revenue? Like if you put Brian Jr., if he headlines an event, right, is he going to sell like that many tickets, right, and all that to, let's say, generate that type of revenue and money? I don't think so. I think they're offering him above market value price is what they're doing for this fight. That's what I believe, right? It's I'm not against fighters making above market value. Again, I would take the above market value too if I was a fighter, but this idea that we can't point out the reality is that fighters are making above market value, and then that creates a system where now you pay a fighter $3 million to fight a subpar opponent and expect him to fight a tougher opponent for the same amount of money, while you've created a problem. You know what I mean? You've created a very bad problem. Because now you start to create a situation where guys are fighting as often as Floyd was fighting when you were criticizing him, Gabe. And they're not even as established as Floyd, nor proven as Floyd. I personally know fighters, I'm friends with some, that right now, they're just waiting on a call. They're at the mercy of being on, if they could maybe be offered something on an undercard somewhere, and a lot of them are working other jobs and doing other things to pay their bills, and they're just waiting on the promoter to tell them, hey, we got that event, we could do that undercard fight now. I know fighters that are just trying to just get their name out there, and a lot of them will they'll do it for anything at this point, because that's all they want. I know fighters that are struggling financially. I know I sponsored some fighters, helped them financially, not a lot, like what I can, obviously, like $100 a month or something, but to help them out because they can't get fights. A lot of them are just in the gym, and you know how sparring and all that, you know how that accumulates over time, and there's fighters going through that right now, and that's because of a lot of stagnation going on in the sport. Everything has a ripple effect. So when you if Norman agrees to fight Boots Ennis, he makes $1.7 million, right? And then, like Boots gets his money, right? And then there's an undercard below that. And then a lot of those fighters are waiting for the call. They're waiting to get something. But that's who I think about when I think about the health of the sport. I'm not thinking about the guys making millions of dollars, and because you're right, boxing does have a small window. There is a small window of opportunity to make a name for yourself in the sport, a small window of opportunity to make any type of money in this sport, but that applies to every single boxer on the planet. And an unhealthy sport. So let's say, for example, right? And maybe one day I'd like to do just me and Gabriel Montoya. We could have this conversation. I do believe we'll agree on most of these things, by the way. But because right now I'm saying things that he hasn't replied to. So it is what it is, right? But right now I'm just speaking my opinion, right? It's giving you my perspective so he has a better understanding of how I feel about things, all right? let's say there's a budget, right? And whatever it is, like let's say the zone, I don't even know the zone's budget, to be honest with you. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I've heard rumors that top ranks is 90 million or something like that, or 100 million, whatever it is. Whatever the budget is, just think of the budget up there in a cloud, right? Or think of the budget as like, let me get this piece of, not that one. Let me get this right here, right? Hold on. I don't want this to show. See this paper, right? Every time there's a fight, it takes from the budget, right? And I apologize to the chat. I'm giving my thoughts here, but I appreciate you guys giving your thoughts. And I know some people are going at it in the chat, but it is what it is. Every time there's a fight, like you take from the budget. Every time. So if we take the stands, right, we need to think deeper about these things, right? We got to think about all the fight. We got to think about as many fights, because that's how I think, right? If it was up to me, if there's $10 million, I'd rather 5 fighters make a $1 million payday, in those 5 fights each, then one guy gets 10 million. But these are what? Because that's 5 people, right? So this is the budget, right? Let's say there's a fighter, and he goes, I want 10 million to fight. I want you to, like, shit. I don't have that long to make a living in boxing, so you're gonna have to pay, right? This is the budget for the year. If you give one fighter this, and it's all there's left, that's all there's left for all the boxers that like all of them. This is the budget that's left to make boxing matches. That's it. Hey man, that guy, give him what he wants. I mean, hey, his health, he's risking his life. You know what I mean? Like, all right, fine, boom. Okay, he's happy. Oh, no, hey, you guys can fight for this. That's all that there's left in the budget, because the entire budget is gone, right? So when I say, because I know there was another tweet I put out, I think about all the fighters, not a couple of fighters. It is impossible for every fighter to make generational wealth. It is impossible for every fighter to make millions. If you want to argue they all deserve it, but there's not enough money for it, right? To a lot of fighters, and there's a lot of them, especially in the lower weight classes, those guys are fighting legacy fights for far less money when Norman Jr. is demanding, right? You have fighters fighting for 6-digit paydays, right? But if we could get more fighters to make that even better, because there's fighters out there that can't even get fights. There's fighters out there fighting for $5,000, $10,000, right? There's fighters fighting that aren't doing much, quite frankly. And a healthy sport, a sport that's popular, a sport that generates money, right? Because you know who isn't getting money out? Like those fighters that are not well known and stuff are not getting that Saudi money, right? And then the Saudis put a lot of the well-known names on those undercards, and I'm glad they're all getting paid. But where does it leave some of the other fighters that are not well known yet, right? What does that leave a lot of the journeymen out there that have been depending on being a step-up fight for a prospect or something like that? Where does it leave them? At the end of the day, right? I want a healthy sport that gets as many fighters as possible paid. All right. And you do that, right? You do that by making the sport more popular. That's what you do. Okay. And I believe that when fighters fight for legacy, when fighters, right, challenge themselves and accomplish great things, the money comes with it. No one's going to tell me, nobody is going to tell me that a 23-year-old Sugar Ray Leonard, if he was unknown, doesn't take an opportunity to fight Boots in that situation. No one's going to tell me many of these great legends wouldn't have taken that opportunity in like this, right? Like that no one's going to tell me that. So those are just my thoughts on that. Now, as far as the fans and the fans having opinions, just to move on from that, right? We absolutely do have an opinion. And this is not directed at anybody in specific, but there is this attitude, I don't know what it is, that people want to separate themselves from the fans. Right? Bro, a fan can say the same thing a promoter says. And people will make fun of the fan. They will scorn the fan. They will say, "You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. Just take it. Stop complaining. You're the worst in the world. You're bad. You're terrible." Right? And then a promoter will say the exact same thing. "Oh yeah, real talk, Eddie. Real talk, Oscar." Right? Somebody in a position of authority will say something. "Yeah, real talk. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Look, it is what it is, man. You know what I mean?" So we need to make sure, right, that we that this is understood. All right. Now I understand something because I talked about the line earlier, right? I don't call boxers bums, right? I don't, I have a lot of respect for fighters, right? It's just I don't go that far. You know what I mean? No, I'm not perfect, right? Like maybe occasionally, like once in a while, I'll say like, "Well, you fought that bum" or something like that. But so I'm not perfect, and I used to say it, right? But I have over time, I've done my best to become better, right? So I don't want to call people a bum, all right? I don't want to I don't name call fighters, and that's me, right? And I discourage that on my platform, and I don't like that. Okay, but fans are going to be fans, right? It's is there a line with it? Absolutely. But if fans want to demand that they see certain fights, whether people want to say they don't have, it doesn't matter anyway. Here's my thing: if what the fans say doesn't matter and it has no impact whatsoever, right? Why do the same people that say that also say, "Oh, the fans are hurting the sport by complaining too much"? Oh, the fans, why do they, why are you so caught up with what the fans are saying if what the fans say doesn't matter? Can somebody answer that for me? What the fans say matters. Of course it matters because they're the consumer. It does matter. And if you're a fighter that nobody knows, and you're working a full-time job, and you're waiting on a call to maybe be put on an undercard somewhere, well, good luck getting anybody else to speak for you. You need fans. You need fans to go to these events, so there's more of them, so you have more opportunities to go to these events. Quite frankly, Turkey ain't helping you. That, that's just the reality. It doesn't matter. Oh, the fan. Like people do shows mocking the fans. Like, oh, the fans, they think that they matter. They laugh and they just scorn and people try to get away from it. Like it's crazy to me, bro. It's like nuts. Right? I don't understand. Like, it's whatever to me. Shout out to Timothy Bradley though, because he kept it real one time. Like somebody was talking about the fans, and Bradley, look, he kept the dude off. And like, look, man, a lot of these fans, they know their shit. They know about fighters we don't know about. They know more about the stats than we do. They follow more than we do. They watch more than we do. Okay, they know what the fuck they're talking about. Yes, we fucking do know what the fuck we're talking about. The fuck you talking about? I've talked to hundreds of managers, promoters, people in the business, hundreds behind the scenes on shows, interviewing them. When you do stuff like that, you learn about the business. Boxing fans watch a bunch of fights. They watch the fights of the fighters that no one gives a shit about. The boxing fans are the ones talking about the up-and-coming prospect. You got to watch out for this dude. Like, most of the time when I hear about a prospect, it's from a boxing fan. It's never from a fucking promoter. All right? Promoters, all right? Like at the end of the day, this dismissal of the boxing fan and then painting all of them with a broad brush because some of them said this or this and that. Like, first of all, the idea that people are engaging about the sport and have an opinion about it, and you're trying to discourage it and suppress it is unbelievable to me. And there are a lot of people out there that do that. It's unbelievable. And they see lies about, like, it's unbelievable, bro. Like, just the shit they say. Now they're fans. So, you know what you also get from the boxing fan? You get a more pure, authentic opinion. That's what you get from fans. Now, I disagree. Even I disagree with a lot of the fans. They're fans. Of course, they're going to say, like a lot of fans are going to say ignorant things, right? But it's not their job. It's not the fans' job to understand anything. Okay? It's your job to want their money. The fans over here say, well, the fan is telling you what you need to do to get their money. The fan is telling you what you need to do so they can go to these events. That's what the fan is doing. That's why they have reviews for shit, right? That's why before people go watch a movie, they look at reviews. That's why before people go to restaurants, they look at the reviews. That's why businesses, work on their customer service and treating people right because people's opinion about them and word of mouth matters. You don't want boxing fans being so negative all the time. Don't give a shit to be negative about. It's just the way it is. Do I believe some fans are too negative? Yes, but it's their right to be so. I'm not going to get bent out of shape about it. I like a lot of the positive things that are happening in the sport. And there is a lot of it. Don't get me wrong, right? And that's a good way to put it. They look at fans as the enemy. I don't know, man. When I went to T-Mobile Arena and I talked to boxing fans, they didn't sound like the enemy of fighters to me. Right? That's just the reality. Like I'm just telling you. But everyone wants to separate themselves. There's people that are like, oh, I'm not a boxing fan. I'm not one of them. Like, well, it's just like, well, what's going on right here? Like, well, what's like you're above it. Like there's something wrong with it, or like, yeah. So some of us have other professions, and we just happen to be boxing fans. So, well, what's the big fucking deal, right? And you don't know a lot of those boxing fans and what they do for a living. A lot of them run their own businesses, so they do understand business, right? A lot of them make money in their business. Okay, a lot of boxing fans, right? Like have a specialty in what they do in their job, right? And a lot of it could be in entertainment. They could work for a social media company. They could work for a law firm. They could work for a lot of things that boxing deals with, and they have a good understanding of it. People just assume, like, I don't know where you think. Where do you think these boxing fans come from? Do they just like crawl out of a cave or something? And just too like what do you think? Like, where do you think they come from? I don't get it. So the reason a lot of diehards voice out their frustration is because they're watching this sport dwindle in popularity right in front of their eyes, and they care, and it's frustration. That's what it is. The ones that when people say, don't complain. Just if you don't like it, just don't watch it, or they don't buy it. Then speak that way, right? First of all, that hurts the sport. Second, while the ones that have that perspective have left, they're gone. So those boxing fans are watching other shit now. They're doing other things. Not that many people are watching boxing in America anymore. At least not as often. Which is why the ratings have dropped, which is why they don't get as many viewers as they used to. That's just a reality, right? And I can tell you right now, man, like I saw the drop in viewership, like actively saw it over the years when I worked at Dish. I had access to the metrics and the and stuff like that. So, and that was like, dude, I've been gone from Dish for like fucking 2018. Like I've been like, bro, it's been 6 years. And it's worse now. That is just the reality, man. Right? Yeah, the ones that don't care, yeah, don't say anything about it. Yeah, they're gone. Oh, the market will speak. The market has spoken. The market has turned the sport of boxing into a niche sport in America. And the boxing fans that are still around, we're the ones saying, hey, the boat is sinking. Well, stop complaining about it. They'll cover the boat, okay? They don't do it, they will drown. Then the boat will drown. Then the boat will sink. All right? We don't want it to sink. That's the point. Like yesterday, now I was just joking around with Nando. All right? When I said he drinks from the toilet water, I was just joking about it. But I don't want boxing to go the path of Sears. And maybe it's because I care. Maybe it's because I love the sport. But I don't want it to go the path of Sears. Like, I don't want it to go that. I don't want people to look at the sport I love in America and say, man, remember when boxing was doing good? Man, it's fucking sad what's happening to boxing right now. I know the matter of fact stance. Well, hey, if it failed, then that's on them. Don't worry about it. Just don't buy it if you don't want it. Yeah, well, that's not a good concept. People call it complaining. They could call it all. They're always negative. Most boxing fans want their sport to thrive, and they don't see it thriving. And a lot of you watching this, you know it's true. Just look at your immediate circle, not on the internet. A lot of you are on the internet to talk boxing with people because you don't have anybody in your personal life to talk boxing with, right? Just think about your immediate circle. Think 20 years ago. How many of your friends were watching boxing? How much of your family was watching boxing? How many of them were fans of the sport? How often was there a boxing card in your city? How packed did those cards get? Let's fast forward 20 years. How much did that change? How many of your friends watch boxing? How many of your friends, family, watch boxing? How many do you watch boxing with? Do they watch? If they do watch it, do they watch it as often? And then let's fast forward to today. How many in your family still watch boxing regularly? Still watch boxing often? You don't need to tell me. You need to do it, right? Like, but the point is this. The boxing fan is watching their sport become less, the sport they love become less relevant. They're watching it become less attractive. They're watching their fighters tell them they don't give a fuck about them, right? You have dudes that start podcasts and like Andre Ward, and all they're doing is talking about how the fans just, they need to understand this, they need to understand that, they just don't get it, and all of it is about how the fan doesn't get this, the fan doesn't get that. Let me just tell you guys something. The fans, they got other shit going on, right? They got a full-time job or full-time career. They got other stuff. Boxing is their escape. Boxing is their form of entertainment. It's not their job to understand this and understand that. All they understand is how hard they work for the money and what they want for the money, right? And if boxing's not giving them what they want for the money, they're going to go somewhere else. That's just the reality, all right? That's just the truth. Shout out to Nando Llamas. Boxing isn't Sears. Drew 22,000 in LA, 10K in Fresno, 18K in San Francisco in less than a year. I went to all of those cards. Great, lively cards. No, I said it's Sears back in 2005. That's what I said. So, shout out to Nando. I appreciate it. He works hard for his money. You know what I mean?
I'm a hard-working man.
You know, I have, like, I know people that served in the Marines and like used to be big boxing fans. You know, two friends in particular, they don't watch it anymore. They don't watch it. What are you going to tell them? Oh, they don't understand, you know, the sacrifice and what it takes to put your life on the line. They need to stop complaining. No, they weren't getting what they wanted from the sport and they moved on. All right? People have moved on. It's just the way it is. You know what I mean? It's the way it is. I'm saying. All right? With that said, guys, I do got to get going. And hopefully we'll do a show early in the week and all that good stuff. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing. I'm out of here. Peace.